Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the City of Federal Way's annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration event. My name is Julian Franco, and I serve as chair for the Diversity Commission here. It is my honor to welcome you all into this virtual space to hear from community leaders, local scholars, and my colleagues on the commission to commemorate Dr. King. In past years, you would be joining us in the Performing Arts and Event Center. As we continue to act in favor of our neighbors and community with social distancing measures, we also knew this event had to still happen somehow. With our newfound technological savviness and the normalcy of Zoom and video recordings, we were able to bring you our 2021 MLK event, the theme being One City, One Dream. Rather than working with one school, we collaborated with district leadership, administrators at each high school, and our own scholars to come together to put together this video program. During these trying times of digital learning, working, and communicating, this entire planning process really highlighted everything positive we've learned as a community as we pivoted to online platforms. I got to end many long days of work staring at my computer screen to then witnessing the youth of our city, the future of our city, present their ideas and visions for this event. I was able to hear them reflect on 4 major themes: diversity, compassion, integrity, and justice. And as we completed planning phases of this event, I became more excited for the final product. What was once a conversation of, can we even do this event, became the motivation and realization that this could be our biggest event to date. We now step into 2021 with hindsight of last year, where our nation's shoulders were shook at the injustices that were happening to communities of color, our Black and African American neighbors, minority business owners, undocumented individuals, and so many other marginalized communities. Dr. King would surely call upon us today to continue his fight for justice, unity, and true freedom. You joining our community by tuning in, watching this with your family and loved ones, or even sharing this out is one easy way for you to join this fight. Take this next hour or so to listen, learn, celebrate, and honor an individual that taught each one of us to stand up for what is right and just. As I said earlier, this event could not happen without many partners and supporters. Now let's transition to introducing our commission, recorded at our last meeting, hear both the national anthem and Black national anthem from 2 of our local scholars, and begin our online event. Again, thank you again for joining us. Hello, my name is Julian Franco. I'm the chair of the Diversity Commission. I've been on it for 3 years. And what I am looking forward to most in this online program is doing a cross collaboration with all the high schools in the district rather than just partnering with one. Historically, we usually just work with one school.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vice Chair Curtis McQueen, and I've been with the commission for 4 years now. One of the things I'm looking forward to this year's event is the final product and how it all comes together. As Chair Franco mentioned, we worked with all the schools this year rather than just one, and it was done all remotely. And so to see all of it put together is going to be really exciting.
Hello, everyone. I am Commissioner Davis, and I've had the pleasure of serving on the Federal Way Diversity Commission since March of this year. I'm excited to continue with this event to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. despite the COVID-19 pandemic. This year's 4 focus areas of justice, diversity, compassion, and integrity truly embody what Dr. King stood for. I look forward to seeing the creativity of our scholars as they demonstrate through performance and art what these values mean to them. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Larissa Lincoln. I've been on the Diversity Commission for 1.5 years, and I am also looking forward to watching and listening the youth and honoring Dr. King's legacy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brandon Bruon. I have had the pleasure of serving on the Diversity Commission for the past 9 months. I really look forward to seeing what our students are able to bring forward to the event that we're going to be hosting. I was able to attend the live in-person event last year, and I was really impressed by the amazing work by all the community members, especially our students. Now that we're able to work in a collaborative effort with all the schools within the City of Federal Way, I'm excited and seeing all the creativity that's going to be put forth to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Trinice Rogers. I am have the pleasure of serving on this commission for the past 5 years. I'm excited to watch our commission as we pivot in this new COVID world. And I'm really excited to just highlight our amazing scholars in addition to our FAPA community as well as our Truman community, in addition to our staff academy for the very first year they'll be joining us this year. In addition, I'm excited to hear from our leaders, but not to mention some of the leaders that we have yet to hear from, like Lieutenant Hodge, as well as our local pastor, Pastor Gordon Banks. I hope you all enjoy. Take care.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Ciprius, and I've been on the Diversity Commission for 9 months now. What I'm looking forward to for the MLK project is to see the scholars express themselves in so many different ways.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Frederick, and I am new to the Federal Way Diversity Commission. I joined on in September. But those of you in the community might know me better as Miss Frederick, as I am a kindergarten teacher at Olympic View Elementary. It's such an honor to be serving my community both on the Diversity Commission and as a teacher, and something I'm really excited for about today's celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. King is to hear and learn from our very own scholars.
Please join me in honoring our nation with the singing of the national anthem, sung by Todd Bamer High School student Jada Ela.
Hi, my name is Jada. I'm a senior this year at Todd Bamer High School, and I'll be singing the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, stay does their star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave.
Up next, we have a performance by Trenton Walker of Decatur High School. He will be performing the Black National Anthem. Please enjoy.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory this one.
I am honored to introduce the Mayor of Federal Way, Mayor Jim Farrell.
Hi everyone, I'm Jim Farrell, Mayor of Federal Way. I'd like to thank our Diversity Commission, as well as the many scholars from Federal Way Public Schools who put so much work into hosting this year's first ever virtual 2021 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. community event. As we focus on the theme of this year's event, One City, One Dream, I'm honored you invited me to speak a little bit about Dr. King and the 4 characteristics that today's virtual event focuses on: diversity, justice, integrity, and compassion. Dr. King's embrace of diversity is perhaps best exemplified through his relationship with the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. Though the two men never got a chance to meet, King learned about Gandhi through his writings and a trip to India in 1959. During the trip, Dr. King met with Gandhi's son, cousin, grandsons, and other relatives, and even laid a wreath on his entombed ashes. King later wrote that he, quote, came to see for the first time that the Christian doctrine of love, operating through the Gandhian method of nonviolence, was one of the most potent weapons available to oppressed peoples in their struggle for freedom. Diversity is a common theme in his famous I Have a Dream speech as well. As King talks about his dream of his 4 children, quote, one day living in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. In Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail, he famously wrote, quote, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Dr. King faced numerous calls from those in the movement to be more radical in order to attain what some saw as justice for the debilitating and degrading violence that was crippling Black communities all over the South. But King was adamant that the path to attaining justice was through nonviolent measures. He spoke more of a unification of races than of taking all the bitterness and hatred to the streets to battle it out. Quote, now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood, he said in his I Have a Dream speech. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. Dr. King embodied integrity. The son of a preacher, a young man with children, he could have been comfortable preaching his beliefs and principles to his familiar congregation every Sunday. But he felt so much conviction to those beliefs that he insisted on taking them mainstream, disregarding his personal safety and venturing beyond his bubble of comfortability. He put everything on the line to fight oppression. In 1956, a local sheriff denied King's bodyguard a permit to carry a weapon to protect King's home. 3 years later, a cross was burned on the front lawn of Dr. King's Atlanta home. In 1960, at the Fisk University Gymnasium in Nashville, a bomb scare delayed King's address before a mass meeting sponsored by the Nashville Christian Leadership Conference. Despite these threats, Dr. King stuck to his convictions and did not turn back or abandon his plight. Dr. King faced great pressure to succumb to alternate means in order to achieve equality, mainly violence. But his compassion was not deterred. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence, he said. We talk about that compassion today as the main element in Dr. King's legacy. Imagine being faced with hostile crowds, death threats, and immense pressure to fight all the bitterness and hatred, yet remaining true to his compassion. Dr. King believed with unfaltering conviction that, quote, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood, as referred to in his I Have a Dream speech. This year, our nation convulsed with social unrest after the senseless murder of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. This caused great alarm in our nation, justifiably, and especially in communities of color. But Federal Way has been a shining example of how a community can show its passionate activism, yet remain peaceful during turbulent times in our region and nation. This unrest has created a renewed focus on a dialogue about justice, equality, and respect, one that has brought us closer together. We've locked arms together here in Federal Way during this difficult time. We must put diversity in the core tenet that we are stronger when we work as one at the forefront of our decision-making process here at the city. It will benefit our community in countless ways moving forward, and it is the right thing to do. Thank you for joining us today to honor Dr. King's legacy on this special day.
And now to present a spoken word from Truman, Scholar Alejandro Miranda.
Hello, my name is Alejandro Miranda. I am in 12th grade and I go to Career Academy at Trinity High School. And for my MLK presentation, I'll be doing a quote and elaborating on that quote. And the quote is, I plan to stand by nonviolence because I found it to be a philosophy of life that not only regulates my dealings in the struggle for racial justice, but also my dealings with people and with my own self. And I think this quote can really be applied and used nowadays, because nowadays we have looting and rioting, and what Martin Luther King stood for was peaceful protest. So we could kind of apply that into nowadays instead of what we have going on.
And now from Tafasa Holly to present a spoken word, Life of MLK, scholar Shannon Hobson.
Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929 to Alberta Williams King and Martin Luther King Sr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a pastor at his grandfather's church. He has 4 kids with his wife, Coretta Scott King. His grandfather was his co-pastor in 1954 in Montgomery, Alabama. Martin Luther King Jr. was also a writer. He was very intelligent, serving his country before he got murdered for his social justice movement. On August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech called I Have a Dream. This particular speech was during the Civil Rights Movement when Rosa Parks was introduced during the bus boycott. During Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, all races of color attended and wanted to hear the inspiring words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The crowd was in support of Dr. Martin Luther King's perspective on racial equality. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on August 4, 1968, while standing on a balcony. After his death, his family was so devastated to lose him only at the age of 39. He really did not deserve to die this young and in that manner. As of 2021, Dr. King would have been 92 years and 1 month old. I can only imagine what he would say if he were able to see the racial tensions still living today. The purpose of having the I Have a Dream speech is for every race of color to get along, find racial equity throughout societal systems, and end the discrimination happening in America. Discrimination has only caused damage to relationships amongst families and friends, increase in racial violence, and further divides the people of this country. Dr. King only wanted everyone to work, live, and be together as a mixed society. Dr. King wanted to change the laws to get the community together when he got arrested for protesting the treatment of blacks in Birmingham, Alabama, and served time in jail for this advocacy work. I need to state that Black Lives Matter. It's crazy that that even has to be said because it shouldn't matter what color skin you have, the size of a person, or the age when it comes to being an equal party of today's society. All that matters is that we are all treated and seen as equals in every aspect of what it means to be an American. Dr. King really sacrificed his life to change the laws for our country and to get together as a school family, work family, and neighborhood family, even though we are really not related. Since Dr. King left this earth, everyone in our community needs to put their implicit and explicit biases aside and more kindness and love towards one another. Everyone should remember Dr. King as a historical advocate. Dr. King once said, I have decided to stick to love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. Thank you.
Here are Traylon, Darius, and Isaiah presenting from Federal Way High School.
Envy. Pain or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another joins with the desire to possess the same advantage. You see, my whole life has been poisoned with envy. People telling you, you can't do this, you can't do that. But being young, little did you know, they wanted what you had. They see the talent, they see the potential, and they most definitely see the hard work. Little old you stuck in a world where you can't just run and ask somebody for help. You gotta learn. You gotta adapt and adjust. It wasn't no joke. Shit. It ain't now either. I'm just here to lead by example. To show you you can be great too.
I am proud to introduce from Federal Way Public Academy, Ava Sanchez, Haley Lum, Anisha Rogers, Hannah Mai, and Alinea Kirschenbaum.
On January 18th, our nation will be honoring Dr. Martin Luther King. His actions and words help inspire millions of people to take part in the fight for equal justice. Federal Way Public Academy would like to pay tribute to some of those individuals who took action to make our country a more just society.
We would like to honor the brave children who risked their own personal safety in order to integrate our public schools. Throughout the United States history, African Americans were either denied an education or were forced to attend the schools segregated by race. In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court in the Brown versus Board of Education ruled segregation in public schools unconstitutional. Despite of this court's ruling, many schools remained segregated. It took brave children's students like Elizabeth Eckford and Ernest Green, two members of what were referred to as the Little Rock Nine, to actually make this ruling a fact by standing up for massive residents and attending school in Little Rock, Arkansas. We'd also like to honor Ruby Bridges, who at the age of 6 became the first African American to attend an all-white school in New Orleans. Ruby had to be escorted by the U.S. Marshals to and from school. We also want to honor Palm Foreman and her family, as they were the only white family who would not boycott the class that would be attended. We also want to honor Hamilton Holmes, James Meredith, Audrey Lucy, and who that all defied racist governors in Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama, as they were the only Black students who ended segregation in their state's university. All these students defied threats and intimidation to ensure that our Constitution would be enforced.
Though Dr. King was an amazing leader, in the case of the sit-in movement, it was Dr. King who was inspired to take action because of the work of teenagers throughout the South. The sit-in movement was a series of nonviolent protests aimed at businesses that practice segregation. The movement has its origins in Greensboro, North Carolina, where Joseph McNeil, age 18, Franklin McCain, 19, Ezell Blair, 18, and David Richmond, 19, organized a political movement in their college dorm rooms that would change history. These 4 brave teenagers would put themselves in a dangerous situation by just requesting a service that was only being denied to them because of their race. The 4 students were known as the Greensboro Four, and their actions would inspire similar acts by students throughout the South and would lead 3 years later to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which led to laws leading to the integration of public accommodation.
Equality, the right for everyone to receive the same treatment. In 1776, a statement was agreed upon and signed. Although it really sticks out in my mind, what was promised then is not what you will find, even now, over 200 years later. Let's rewind. This is what it said. All men are created equal. But this wasn't achieved. Why do white people get to be part of the prequel? People of color had to wait until the sequel. People just wanted basic rights, something that shouldn't even take a fight, but it did. That's a story that no one could ever rewrite. We need representation and leadership, representation of the people, which is something we can't achieve without voting registration of the people. One of the highlights of Dr. King's career was the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. This piece of legislation was enacted in order to enforce provisions in the Constitution that were passed but not enforced almost 100 years earlier. The law came about after a decade-long struggle by United States citizens who were denied the right to vote. We honor Reverend George Lee, who urged his congregation to vote. State officials in Mississippi told him to stop, and when he refused, they had him murdered. We honor Lamar Smith, who organized people to vote in front of the courthouses in Mississippi and was killed for his actions. We honor Herbert Lee of Mississippi, who also organized voters and was killed by his state legislator who opposed his actions. We honor James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. These 3 young civil rights workers were also killed in Mississippi for organizing voter registration drives. None of these individuals died in vain, as their actions inspired thousands to protest for the right to vote. These protests culminated in the famous Selma to Montgomery March led by Dr. King. This march will lead to the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, which is something we could have never achieved without voting registration of the people.
We often think major change only happens because of strong leaders like Dr. King. And yes, their words and deeds are crucial to any movement. But it is often the unsung heroes like Elizabeth Eckford, Joseph McNeil, and Lamar Smith who bring about change. We saw this again this past summer where thousands of unsung heroes marched for social justice. We can all be unsung heroes as we continue the fight for the ideals of Dr. King.
I am happy to introduce Emily Rowe from Decatur High School.
I have a wish. A dream, you might say. We all do. You do, and so do I. I have a wish that all can be accepted, that no one is judged by their looks, by their gender, by their sexuality, or anything that makes them who they are.
And now presenting a spoken word from Open Doors, scholar Denise Perez.
Hi, my name is Denise Perez. I go to school at Open Doors. I wrote this to celebrate MLK Day. The one line we're all told is that America is a free land, that we all have freedom, but who does all relate to? To the people of color, to the whites? Now we all know the answer to that. As the years go by, we see more and more discrimination in different forms. We get told that there's no slavery or segregation any longer, but people of color are still suffering in our justice system. So now, who does freedom belong to? Systematic oppression has affected people of color in our education system, in their wealth, and in their well-being. They have lost many innocent lives due to the police force judging them because of their skin color. Both black and brown people are still facing systematic oppression. From being followed in the store to getting the cops called just because you're waiting for a friend. But it's loitering just because you're not white. From past and present, people of color still live in fear. Freedom is living with no fear.
Next, we'll be presenting the recipients of our 2021 Representative Roger Freeman Memorial Award. High school students in Federal Way were eligible to apply for the award and submitted 4 written responses in hopes to provide insight on the 4 values of the award: diversity, justice, compassion, and integrity. With the annual Flavor of Federal Way this summer being virtual, it opened up additional funding opportunities for 9th and 10th graders to apply this year. This year, we're excited to announce that 5 high school students will be the recipients of $250 to go toward their future endeavors. The recipients' names can be read here. Applicants this year were incredible. Students spoke about clubs they've created, ideas they turned into action like multicultural spirit weeks and assemblies, an awareness of their cultural identities, and reflections of how the rich diversity of Federal Way made them the scholars they are today. Thank you to everyone who applied, and we truly wish we could recognize all of you with the award. Here are a few words from some of our 2021 award recipients.
Hello, my name is Paulina. I use she, her pronouns, and I attend Thomas Jefferson High School as a senior. The reason I applied for the Roger Freeman Award was because I saw the words diversity, justice, compassion, and integrity on the flyer. And those were concepts that really speak to me as a person of color who works every day to ensure that the work that I do benefits my community. I really want to make sure that Federal Way continues to be diverse, that really puts justice, compassion, and integrity in front of in front of the mind of the community. And so, yeah, I applied and I got it. So hopefully these concepts will continue to live on within Federal Way.
Hello, my name is Figure and I go to Thomas Jefferson High School and I am a senior. I applied to the Representative Roger Freeman Award because I am preparing for my secondary education next year. So in addition to applying to all these schools, I have to prepare financially. This award is actually the first scholarship that I won. So I'm very thankful for that. And since I am the oldest child out of 3 siblings in my family, I've always kept in mind the finance of going and receiving a higher education, and since my sisters are pretty close in age to me, I do not want to put that burden on my parents, so I'm preparing. In addition to the application of the scholarship, all these questions I was super passionate about, so yeah, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Untu Ritz Huang and I'm currently a sophomore at Thomas Jefferson High School, otherwise known as TJ High School. The main reason why I applied for this Rep. Roger Freeman Award is because I thought it was such a great opportunity for me to share my knowledge about diversity, my passion about education, and as well as I wanted to use the fund from this award to help my family pay for my college. I am so honored and grateful to be one of the winners of this award, and I want to say thank you to the Federal Way Diversity Commission Group for making this award for everyone. And I hope those of you who are watching right now have a great rest of your day, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Next, we have a performance by Todd Beamer High School student Nina Simone Wilson Slack, who will be performing a spoken word.
My name is Nina Simone, and today I will be presenting the last essay of Congressman John Lewis. While my time here has now come to an end, I want you to know that in the last days and hours of my life, you inspired me. You filled me with hope about the next chapter of the great American story when you used your power to make a difference in our society. Millions of people motivated simply by human compassion laid down the burdens of division. Around the country and around the world, you set race, class, age, language, and nationality aside to demand respect for human dignity. This is why I had to visit Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington. Though I was admitted to the hospital the following day, I just had to see it and feel it for myself, that after many years of silent witness, the truth is still marching on. Emmett Till was my George Floyd. He was my Rayshard Brooks, Sandra Bland, and Breonna Taylor. He was 14 when he was killed, and I was only 15 years old at the time. I will never ever forget the moment when it became so clear that he could have easily been me. In those days, fear constrained us like an imaginary prison, and troubling thoughts of potential brutality committed for no understandable reason were the bars. Though I was surrounded by 2 loving parents, plenty of brothers, sisters, and cousins, their love could not protect me from the unholy oppression waiting just outside that family circle. Unchecked, unrestrained violence and government-sanctioned terror had the power to turn a simple stroll to the store for some Skittles or an innocent morning jog down a lonesome country road into a nightmare. If we are to survive as one unified nation, we must discover what so readily takes root in our hearts that could rob Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina of her brightest and best, shoot unwitting concert goers in Las Vegas, and choke to death the hopes and dreams of a gifted violinist like Elijah McClain. Like so many young people today, I was searching for a way out, or some might say a way in, and then I heard the voice of Dr. Martin Luther King on an old radio. He was talking about the philosophy and discipline of nonviolence. He said we are all complicit when we are tolerating injustice. He said it was not enough to say it will get better by and by. He said each of us had a moral obligation to stand up, and speak out. When you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state. It is an act, and each generation must do its part to help build what we called the beloved community, a nation and world society at a peace with itself. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it. You must also study and learn the lessons of history because humanity has been involved in this soul-wrenching existential struggle for a long time. People on every continent have stood in your shoes through decades and centuries before you. The truth does not change, and that is why the answers worked out long ago can help you find solutions to the challenges of our time. Continue to build union between movements stretching across the globe, because we must put away our willingness to profit from the exploitations of others. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe in. In my life, I have done all I can to demonstrate the way of peace. The way of love and the way of nonviolence is more excellent. Now it is your turn to let freedom ring. When historians pick up their pens to write the story of the 21st century, let them say that it was your generation who laid down the heavy burdens of hate at last, and that peace finally triumphed over violence, aggression, and war. So I say to you, walk with the wind, brothers and sisters, and let the spirit of peace and the power of everlasting love be your guide.
Up next, we have a special performance of dance, performed by Kaya Johnson Williams and Sherelle Devine of Todd Beamer High School. Please enjoy.
It is now my honor to introduce the Superintendent of Federal Way Public Schools, Dr. Tammy Campbell.
Hello, everyone. I want to start out by thanking the Diversity Commission, the City of Federal Way, and especially our scholars in Federal Way Public Schools for collaborating on this virtual event to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. Well, 2020 is proving to be what I would describe as a once-in-a-lifetime year. Our way of life has been turned upside down with the raging pandemic that has taken the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans and pushed us into isolation and away from each other in so many ways. This pandemic exposed another silent, ever-present pandemic that we have lived with in this country for hundreds of years. The pandemic of race, racism, inequality, and injustice. We were horrified to watch George Floyd's life extinguished before our eyes. There were other unexplained instances of Black women and men who lost their lives in what should have been routine encounters with law enforcement, or those who might have been questioned as they entered their homes in certain neighborhoods where people believed they didn't belong. There's the high unemployment rates and the high instances of COVID deaths that hit African Americans and other communities of color especially hard, illustrating what happens when systems and barriers are hardwired in our communities, our schools, our workplaces, pushing people farther and farther away from their dreams. And in the face of these struggles, the resiliency and talent of Black leaders has inspired me. For example, Dr. Kizzy Corbett, a key scientist who helped discover the COVID-19 vaccine. Tristan Walker, a 30-year-old venture capitalist in the Silicon Valley. Or April Erickson, a leading aerospace engineer with NASA. There is greatness in these communities when we allow these leaders to shine. So this year, on MLK Day, this is about action. How are each of us going to live so that every person, no matter their race, is able to live to their fullest potential? I encourage each of us to commit to reading a good book, learning about how this pandemic of race and racism operates in every aspect of our lives. In Federal Way Public Schools, we're reading the book Caste, which has been an incredible read to explain how we got here. I challenge you to read a book like that. These perspectives and learning will position you to make the kind of action that dismantle, disrupt, and reimagine a world where every person, especially people of color, can show up, be seen, and know their lives matter. I challenge you to look around in your workplaces and to ask, do you see that beautiful diversity? In your hires for new openings in your companies, are you looking to bring in diverse perspectives, diverse peoples? In your friendships, in your social circles? This thing called race was created to give power to one group over another, because scientifically and anthropologically, we are members of the human race. If we were to dismantle and claim a full and transformative future, we must move forward as a whole: white, Black, brown, gay, straight, trans, all of us. Because, as Marian Anderson once said, no matter how big a nation is, it is no stronger than its weakest people. And as long as you keep a person down, some part of you has to be down there to hold that person down. So it means you cannot soar. We cannot soar otherwise. The true greatness in us will only be achieved when each of us realizes our full potential. Thank you.
Up next, we have Mecca Parson of Todd Beamer High School, who will be performing for you a spoken word.
My name is Mecca Parson. I will be reading an original speech about the legacy of Dr. Martin King Jr. Dr. Martin King Jr. is one of the most influential persons of the last 100 years. While only with us for a short period of time, Dr. King's legacy of nonviolence and resistance had a monumental impact on all persons of color in the United States and abroad. At the age of 6, Dr. King was quickly schooled on the harsh realities of the racist segregation of the South. When he had to attend a segregated school, it was no longer allowed to play with his white neighbor. This impacted Dr. King tremendously and led to his work in trying to dismantle the system of segregation. While the March on Washington is probably his most famous work, it is not where his work began. King was the first president of LCLC, inspired by the bus boycott. King, along with other civil rights activists, founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, LCLC, in 1957 to coordinate their efforts. King was the president of LCLC and to his assassination in 1968. The LCLC had a large role in the American Civil Rights Movement. Dr. King was behind African Americans getting basic civil rights. He became the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. He achieved success using nonviolent methods of protest. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. became a symbolic leader for not just African Americans, but all Americans.
I am proud to introduce from Decatur High School, Eileen Ekpool.
What counts in life is not the mere fact that we lived. It is what difference we have made to the life of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. This quote is from the first Black president in South Africa, Nelson Mandela. As we continue to go through this obnoxious time, we need something or someone to inspire us. One of two people that come to my mind is Mr. Mandela. This man directed a campaign of peaceful, non-violent defiance against the South African government and its racist policies. Even more, he was one of two people that were awarded a Nobel Prize because he had an idea of bringing people from different races together and brought together a divided country. Remember something important. In life, it's not the fact that we lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the meaning of the life we lead. Another person I have in mind is the first female, the first African American, and the first Asian American Vice President, Kamala Harris. She stands up for women's rights, equal pay for work, is for gender and sexuality diversity, and believes that people like us at Decatur should have access to higher education. In addition to what she has done, she inspires me because she broke down a wall for women that nobody else has ever done. She said something important during her speech. But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last, because every little girl watching this tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities and that children of this country, regardless of their gender, our country has sent you with a clear dream. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourselves in a way that no others simply cannot because they've never seen it before. If you live with nothing but this, you'll be able to break any barrier that stands in your way, just as long as you put your mindset to it. Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Alan T., senior from Thomas Jefferson High School, sharing reflections and an excerpt from a poem, Home by Warsan Shire.
Martin Luther King Day is a day to recognize and remember, as so many of us have fought and continue to fight for racial equality in a systemically racist world. As a community, it is important to look back and see the work that we have done to get to where we are now. But it is also important to remember that there is still work to be done. On a day that we celebrate the work that MLK has done around race, it is imperative that we educate ourselves about the impacts that race has had on our Federal Way community, specifically the stigmas and prejudices surrounding many immigrant communities. As a student growing up in Federal Way, I've seen firsthand how vicious people can be towards those that they don't understand. Federal Way has over 100,000 residents that speak over 111 languages, countless stories, and experiences lost in translation and in a lack of compassion. Home by Warsan Shire attempts to bridge the gap by revealing the experiences of many immigrant communities. We are Federal Way. We are human. We are allied. And we dream together. Excerpts from Home by Warsan Shire. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbor running faster than you, fire under feet. It's not something you ever thought of doing, but even then, you kept the anthem under your breath, only tearing up your passport in an airport toilet, sobbing as each mouthful of paper made it clear that you wouldn't be going back. You have to understand that no one puts their children on a boat unless the water is safer than the land. No one burns their palms beneath trains, under carriages. No one spends days and nights in the stomach of a truck feeding off of newspapers unless the miles traveled means something more than the journey. No one crawls under fences. No one wants to be beaten, pitied. No one chooses refugee camps or prison. But prison is safer than a city of fire. And one prison guard at night is safer than a whole truckload of men that look like your father. No one could take it. No one could stomach it. No one's skin would be tough enough. The go-home blacks, refugees, dirty immigrants, asylum seekers, they smell strange, savage. They are sucking our country dry. They messed their country up and now they're here to mess ours up. How do the looks, the words, how do the insults feel and roll off your backs? Maybe because the insults are easier to swallow than rubble, than bone. I want to go home, but home is the mouth of a shark. No one chooses to leave home until home tells you to quicken your legs, unless home chased you to the shore, unless home told you to leave your clothes behind, to wade through oceans, drown, save, beg, forget pride. Your survival is more important. No one leaves home unless home is a sweaty voice in your ear saying, leave. Run away from me now. I don't know what I've become, but I know that anywhere is safer than here.
Now presenting Esther, Jada, Sasha, Amara, and Awate from Federal Way High School.
I am from the strong sense of coffee in the morning to help lead the youngest study for school. I am from the good grade pressure and the fake smiles that show it's overwhelming. I am from the strict religious rules to the prayer practice so God won't be disappointed. I am from the early wakes on Saturdays and Sundays to staying up all night reading mangas and rewatching the animes that make me forget about the feeling of crying all night. I am from the headaches, from the late night arguments to helping around the house. I am from the ways to make strong coffee to the stains it causes on my oversized shirt. I am from the henna-stained hands to having headphones in 24/7 so I don't have to make conversations. I am from the nostalgic feeling of wearing cultural clothes to the scent of incense traveling around my home.
Amara Hardy. I am from pillows, from food and TV. I am from the positive energy, vanilla-scented candles. I am from roses, the big cone tree whose long limbs I remember as if they were my own. I'm from eating a full meal and being grateful no matter what. From mom and dad. I'm from hitting and yelling and from smiles. I'm from learning from your mistakes and never giving up. I'm from being happy all the time. I'm from Federal, Washington and France. From spaghetti and chicken. From when my dad got shot in the foot. I'm from all the memories I've had.
Sasha McGraw. I am from Rice, from electronics and beds. I am from the lake in my backyard where I don't even swim in when it's summer. I am from the rain known to happen every day, the flowers and palm trees. I'm from decorations and wooden floors from Dante and Tonksima. I'm from family that never communicates with each other and is never home, and from coming together during holidays. I'm from education always being first and clean house when mother gets home. And you'll never get anything done if you're always waiting on someone or something. I'm from going on family trips every year. I'm from Seattle, Washington, from sweet potato pie and takeout food. From meeting new family members every holiday with mom or dad, where my dad's side of the family adopts many kids and my mom's side of the family is where they make many kids.
I'm from Bananas, from cold blankets and hot weather, and from the beach view of Redondo, where a nasty smell of algae on the boardwalk is attractive to visitors. I'm from shea butter and rub, which textures and smoothness are unforgettable. I'm from big smiles and heavy hearts. I'm from not letting the way people see my skin tone affect my greatness. I'm from a friend group that combined speaks 7 languages, from Matthew and Falashade Kilisotu. I'm from watching Family Feud, Jeopardy, and Wheel of Fortune. I'm from Be Like Your Siblings and School Now, Friends Later. I am from Strength, from Thank You Lord by Sis Agatha Moses. I'm from writing 50+ Christmas cards with my dad. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria, from jollof rice and plantain, from staying an extra hour after school because both my parents were working overtime, belonging to a family that wears color-coordinated outfits and jewelry to events. I'm from making lemonade factories out of 5 lemons. This is Esther Kilisotu, and thank you for listening.
And now from our very own Federal Way Police Department, please welcome Lieutenant Hodge.
Hello, I'm Thaddeus Hodge, a lieutenant with the City of Federal Way Police Department. And today we are here to honor a man whose desire for diversity, equality, and justice led him down a path to ensure not only himself, but everyone could benefit from his sacrifices. Martin Luther King's integrity never came into question as he walked his path towards insurmountable challenges at the time. As I walk through our community, the schools, and the city, I see him in many of you, our students, parents, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, and many more who also have these same traits. The desire to better our community while helping to unify all of us as one. I encourage our community youth to continue to walk this path, to become the future community leaders, to continue to embrace us all as one community and better not only yourselves, but also those around you. The future of our community is very bright. You young men and women have a desire and fire inside of you, and I look forward to seeing where each and every one of you go. Thank you.
Offering words of encouragement, please welcome the Senior Pastor of Overcomers Covenant Church, Pastor Gordon Banks.
Hi, I'm Gordon Banks, the pastor at Overcomer Covenant Church and a former NFL wide receiver, started with the Saints in New Orleans and finished with the Cowboys in Dallas. I want to talk to you today about Dr. King. I was 10 years old when he was fatally shot in that Memphis hotel. At our home in Los Angeles, we all cried. He is a good man, had a great spirit of compassion and love in his heart for all men. A man of justice, a man of truth, a man of compassion. And I believe that spirit is still alive. It's alive in you and it's alive in me. And I think as we cultivate that and live by that spirit, we will overcome, because God has designed us to overcome. It is love that never fails, so I would encourage you to lead with love. Lead those around you, lead at home, lead your friends, lead your enemies. I'm not saying it's easy, it's tough, but if it was easy, everyone would do it. But you have to make some exchanges if you're going to lead with love. You're going to have to exchange the hurt for forgiveness. I'm not saying that people that you forgive are right. It doesn't make them right. It just makes you free. So lead with love. Exchange your anxiety for peace. Exchange your frustration for patience. Exchange your fear for trust. Let's lead with love and watch the things in our world change. We celebrate the life of Dr. King. He is a great man. But we also must move forward and do the things God has called us to do. Because that spirit that was in him is in us. It's in you. Lead with love. I think you'll like the results as you bless those who are around you. God bless you. Have a great day.